At 2:11 in the morning, I learned something they don't teach you at the academy. A badge doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it paints a target on your back. I learned it with my face pressed against cold steel and blood in my mouth, staring up at a man who thought he owned the street I was breathing on. And the crazy part is, he really believed he was the good guy. That night started quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear the hum of lights and your own thoughts a little too loud. I was sitting in a corner booth at a roadside diner off Highway 17, nursing a cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes earlier, wearing a torn hoodie and boots that looked like they'd lost a bar fight because that's what the job called for. I wasn't Agent Banks that night. I was just Ty, a nobody, passing through, the kind of guy most people glance at once and then pretend they didn't see. Undercover work is strange like that. You spend months building a version of yourself that looks disposable, sounds harmless, smells like trouble. And if you do it right, nobody ever imagines you matter. Judy, the waitress, kept topping off my water without asking questions. Bless her heart. And I remember thinking how peaceful it felt for a moment, just sitting there, watching steam curl off a grill, pretending I wasn't tracking a narcotics pipeline tied to half the city's dirty secrets. Then the bell over the door rang sharp and metallic, and the whole room shifted like someone had tightened a string through it. 2 cops walked in. The first was young, nervous, scanning the place like he was studying for a test he didn't understand yet. Behind him came the storm. Sergeant Patterson, thick neck, heavy boots, the kind of stare that doesn't look at you, it sizes you. I'd seen that stare before, not just on cops, but on gang enforcers, cartel soldiers, men who believe power is something you take, not something you earn. He didn't sit, didn't order, didn't blink. He just locked onto me like I was the only thing in the room worth noticing. You know that feeling when a dog stops barking and just watches you instead? Yeah, that. He walked over slow, rested his hand on his belt like he was posing for a recruitment poster, and said, "Haven't seen you around." His voice sounded like gravel poured into a coffee can. I shrugged. "Just passing through, officer." Car broke down. He tilted his head, smiling without warmth. "We get a lot of trash passing through," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, usually ends up stuck to the bottom of my boot. The rookie laughed too quick, then stopped when nobody else did. Judy froze behind the counter. I kept my voice calm, not looking for trouble. He leaned closer, breath smelling like peppermint and ego. "Funny thing about trouble, son, you don't have to look for it." Then he tapped the table with 2 knuckles. "ID. Now here's where it gets tricky, because I had ID, sure, but it wasn't mine, not officially. It was a cover identity the Bureau built for me, complete with a record that would light up a police system like a Christmas tree. Show it, I get arrested. Don't show it, I get arrested. Either way, he wins the moment. So I said, left it in the car." He smiled wider, like I'd just handed him permission. "Then we're going for a walk." His grip on my arm was tight, unnecessary, the kind of squeeze meant to remind you who's in charge. Outside, the night air was cold and empty, parking lot silent, except for the ticking engine of their cruiser. He spun me around and slammed me onto the hood. "Hands out." The rookie patted me down, hands shaking a little. "He's clean, Sarge," he said, almost relieved. Patterson didn't look relieved. He looked disappointed. He leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "You think you're smart," I said quietly. "I think I know my rights." And that right there, that tiny shift in tone, was all it took. His fist came out of nowhere and crashed into my jaw so hard I heard the crack before I felt the pain. My knees buckled, asphalt rushed up, copper filled my mouth. The rookie shouted, "Sarge, what the hell?" Patterson barked back instantly. He reached for my belt. "You saw it." I hadn't moved, not an inch. I didn't fight back, didn't touch the ankle holster strapped under my jeans. I just looked up at him and thought, "You just made the worst mistake of your life." They hauled me into the cruiser, cuffed too tight, drove me to the station while Patterson narrated a heroic fairy tale over the radio about subduing a threat. The rookie hesitated, then muttered, "I didn't see him reach." Patterson cut the radio and leaned toward him, voice low and sharp. "In the dark, movement is intent. You saw it. Understand?" The kid swallowed. "Yes, Sarge." I watched their reflection in the glass and realized something. Patterson wasn't just violent, he was practiced. This wasn't new. This was routine. At booking the desk, Sergeant rolled my fingerprints and the machine chirped. Red warning box, federal flag. His posture changed instantly. Patterson waved it off. System glitch. Override it. The sergeant shook his head slowly. I can't override DOJ clearance. Silence spread across the room like spilled ink. I spat blood into a trash can and said clear as I could with a busted jaw, Special Agent Tyrell Banks, FBI. Patterson laughed, but it sounded hollow. Yeah, right. I nodded toward my ankle. Check it. They did. Bureau-issued Glock. Serial matched. The color drained out of his face so fast it looked like someone pulled a plug. I said, call your watch commander. Then call the field office. Tell them their agent's been assaulted. The next few minutes were the longest of his life and the calmest of mine. Because once the truth is in the room, it doesn't leave. The doors opened and a team of agents walked in, quiet, precise, controlled. Our SAC stepped straight up to Patterson and said one word, keys. He dropped them. Literally dropped them. She uncuffed me, looked at my face, then looked at him. Sergeant, she said softly, you're under arrest for civil rights violations and assault on a federal officer. He stammered. You can't do this. This is my precinct. She leaned in just a little. You're a criminal with a badge, she said, and we're done asking. Watching them cuff him with his own restraints was surreal, like gravity had suddenly reversed. At the hospital, they confirmed the fracture. Wired my jaw told me 6 weeks of liquid dinners. I scribbled on a notepad. Could be worse. My boss didn't smile. She said, we pulled footage. We pulled cruiser audio. He bragged about hitting you. Then she told me about the rookie, sitting alone, scared, unsure which side of his conscience he wanted to live with. I asked to see him. In the interrogation room, he wouldn't look at me until I sat down. When he finally did, his eyes filled. I'm sorry. I said sorry won't fix this. But truth might fix you. I told him what was coming. The department would blame him. The union would bury him. Patterson would sacrifice him without blinking. I slid a file across the table. Complaints, settlements, patterns. He eats his young, I said. You're next. His hands shook. If I talk, I'm finished. I nodded. If you don't, you're charged with him. Long silence. Then he whispered, he hit you for no reason. You didn't move. I pushed a pen toward him. Write it down. Meanwhile, Patterson's lawyer hit the media like a hurricane, calling him a hero, calling me reckless, painting me as some dangerous drifter who provoked a good cop. Headlines twisted everything. Old reports about me surfaced without context. For a while it worked. People like simple stories, you know what I mean? Hero versus villain. Uniform versus hoodie. But while he was busy talking, we were digging, and what we found buried him. Patterson made $68,000 a year. Yet he owned a lake house, a new truck, and had cash deposits spaced perfectly to avoid IRS alerts. We tracked one payment straight to a dealer who swore Patterson took cash to lose evidence. Serial numbers matched marked bills. Suddenly, the case wasn't about a punch. It was about corruption. In court, the jury watched the grainy diner video, saw him swing, saw me standing still. The rookie testified, voice shaking, pointing right at him. Patterson took the stand and spun a story about fear and split-second decisions. Some jurors nodded. Then the prosecutor opened a binder thick as a brick and asked about his finances. You could see it hit him like someone pulled a rug out from under his feet. Deposit slips, property deeds, marked money. His voice cracked. He looked at me like I'd betrayed him. I hadn't. He'd betrayed himself long before I ever walked into that diner. The verdict came back guilty on every count. The judge sentenced him to 18 years federal, no parole. When they cuffed him, there was no swagger left, just a man realizing the world wasn't his anymore. Months later, I went back to that diner, same neon hum, same coffee. 2 young officers walked in, saw me, nodded polite. Evening, sir. Calm, respectful, like it should have been from the start. Judy leaned over and said things had been quieter lately. Better. I believed her. But I still think about one thing. If I hadn't been federal, if I'd just been another guy in a hoodie with no badge hidden on my ankle, would anything have happened to him at all? Or would he still be out there deciding who belongs and who doesn't? That's the part that sticks with you. So tell me what you think. Was that justice or was it luck? Was he a bad apple or proof the barrel's got cracks in it? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment, and if you've ever seen something like this happen in real life, I want to hear your story too.